Hello, my name is Chris Shelton, coming to you from a cold and kind of rainy day here in San Jose, California, the heart of Silicon Valley. Coming to you with the DIY Home Remedies Guide to Health, Happiness, and Healing Transformation. Today what I thought I'd talk about is a chapter from my new book, Common Ailments, Heal and Restore. In the upcoming book, the book is broken down into 3 sections. One is common ailments. The second part is on back issues because there's so many diseases, there's so many people that are suffering from back issues from around the world. And then the third part is what I consider as uncommon ailments. So common ailments, what are common ailments? Well, you'd be surprised at how many of these common ailments, and you may have more than one of these going on for you at once, and they're actually so easy to fix and to cure on your own. And what we realize is that a lot of these ailments, the root cause of it comes from the same place. For example, common ailments in the first section of my book would be considered like migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, colitis, acid reflux, and GERD, those types of things. And you know, the common thread with those conditions is that your liver plays a big role as the underlying root cause for it. And so as we see the process of disease, we start to see how these different internal organs, when they're out of balance, for example, common ailment also that's in my first chapter of the book is on asthma and breathing conditions. And your lungs obviously help with the breathing, but also your kidneys assist with the breathing as well too. So understanding that other organs also play a role, but also understanding, well, what is the function of the lungs? Well, if you're somebody who has asthma, for example, the chances are you may also have dry skin. Chances are also your immune system may be kind of low, meaning that you tend to get colds easily. Chances are you may have eczema, and the interconnectedness between all those diseases is actually the lungs being out of balance, but also the kidneys playing a role in it. So as we start to rectify or start to clear up certain common ailments, then what will happen is that you'll see that, or start to notice that other ailments naturally start to heal and restore themselves. Because once you start to fix and understand the underlying root cause, and this is what the book is talking about, is, well, what are the root causes for a lot of these diseases that we see? And for some diseases, like for example, like asthma or eczema, you know, a person will suffer with those issues for many, many, many years. Constipation is something else that people will suffer with. And true, the lungs could also play a role in that dysfunction as well. So guess what? You tonify the lungs or build the lung qi, and then guess what? The constipation clears itself. But again, also the liver can play a role in that dysfunction as well too. So when we're looking at the spleen, well, what kind of dysfunctions happen as a result of the spleen being out of balance? Well, we may see somebody getting chronic nosebleeds. So we may see a child, for example, getting chronic nosebleeds. And the common thread with the spleen and stomach imbalance is the emotion that affects the stomach and spleen, or the emotions of worry, anxiety, and over-intellectualizing too much. One of the main functions of the spleen itself is to hold things in place. For example, to hold your organs in place, but also to hold your blood within your blood vessels. So if you're somebody that's all of a sudden developing chronic bloody noses, or your child is all of a sudden developing chronic bloody noses, cauterizing the blood vessels inside the nose is not the answer. What you have to do is you have to get to the root cause, which is, what is the child worried about? What are they overthinking about? True, your diet also, eating too many carbs, too many pastas, too many breads, too many sugars or foods that turn to sugar could also contribute to the spleen dysfunction. But really, what is the emotional component behind the nosebleeds? What else can there be too? Oh, bruising. If you're somebody who bruises very easily, we also have to look at the spleen as being the culprit for being too deficient for causing the easy bruising. Another thing too is flabby muscles. If you're somebody that has that jiggle on the very on the bottom of your tricep there, that means that unfortunately your spleen and stomach are out of balance. And it's something that, you know, that we don't want to see, but and we try to cover it up, but the reality is that it's there, it's telling you what's going on. Oh, another thing too, if you're somebody who has chronic phlegm, if you're somebody who has sinusitis, if you're somebody who gets chronic yeast infections, you know, all these conditions go back to the function of the spleen itself. So as we start to rectify a lot of these common ailments that plagues us, and unfortunately, when we go see our physician, our physician isn't asking us, well, what is your emotional state? What is your home life like? What is your work life like? What past traumas have you been through? What kind of foods are you eating? How are you sleeping? How are you eliminating? You know, those aren't the questions that are asked if you're going in, for example, with yeast infections, or if you're going in, for example, with chronic phlegm or sinus issues. So unfortunately, the right questions nowadays are not being asked. And so we're here to tell you that, you know what, a lot of these things that we're suffering from are actually rooted back into these imbalances of these various internal organs. And when you start to fix one thing, for example, once you start to fix the chronic bloody noses, guess what? You may notice that other things too, like the yeast resolves itself, the phlegm resolves itself. So then when we look at the heart, well, what are heart imbalances? Well, did you know that your heart connects to your tongue? So if you're somebody that has sores that develop on the tongue, or the papillae that are, hopefully I think I said that right, the papillae. Anyways, the papillae. Anyways, the papillae on the tongue are the little red things that you see on the tongue. If those things are red and inflamed, for example, what that means is that there's something actually emotionally going on with the heart, especially if you look at the very tip of the tongue and you notice that it's red and raised. What else is going on? Oh, if you have slurred speech, or all of a sudden you lose your speech, then we have to look at the heart as a means for that being the root cause of that imbalance. What else? Mania, so having manic episodes, highs and lows, severe highs and lows, means also that the heart is out of balance. Other conditions too, like heart palpitations, angina pectoris, hypertension, high blood pressure, also really back to the heart, and it being in your gene pool, or something as a result of it being hereditary could be the root cause for it too. But again, I've said this before in other videos, that just because you're born into a family with hereditary issues like hypertension and high blood pressure doesn't mean you have to get it. So when we're looking at our body, what can we do in order to rectify these imbalances and understand how to heal and how to restore ourselves? Click on the link below to get my free book, just cover shipping and handling, and inside that book, Qigong for Self-Refinement, Total Health with the 5 Elements, will give you all the tools that you need in order to start to understand how your body functions, but also how to deal with your mental, emotional state, and understanding when imbalances show up, what does it mean, what organs are out of balance. What's really cool inside that book as well is the 5-element questionnaire quiz. Understand what is your typology, meaning we're all a certain typology or a combination of typology. So for example, I'm a wood earth type, which means my liver and my spleen mostly govern me. My weakest element actually is in my water element, which is the kidneys. So if you understand this, then you understand what diseases you may be more prone to, and then what Qigong practices, what dietary recommendations, what feng shui practices can you implement in order to help to restore your body to its natural place of well-being. Here you go. Here's another section from my upcoming book. I'm curious to hear what you would like to talk about, and I appreciate and love all the comments that we're getting out there, and I appreciate your support. I appreciate you sharing this information, as we want to empower you to become the best person that you could possibly be, and that means having the life full of love, happiness, and success. So I'm Chris Shelton, signing off from a beautiful cloudy day in San Jose, California. Until next time, Sei La Chi.